So I think so. As a pre-discussion that we are doing, I think so. Resume building is something very important.
Yeah.
But prior to resume building, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be something that you write on the resume before you actually going into a resume. So I'll not get into what should you write, what should
Mm-hmm.
you not write. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that you build your way through. But apart from just having your name there, photograph there, firstly, don't have ever have photographs on your CV. If you do that, that's not a very that's not a practice that anyone should follow. That just takes up a one pager space that you have.
Hmm. Hi, thank you so much, Kunal, for accepting my invite and being a part of today's podcast.
Hey, absolutely a pleasure, Neha. When you told me about what you intend to do and why are we having this, I was more than excited to find a suitable time on a Sunday for myself to be present here. So thank you so much for the invite, man.
Thank you so much. So, what we do in this segment is instead of me giving a fancy introduction of you, why don't you introduce yourself?
That makes a lot of sense. So my name is Kunal Chetri. I am also from Kohima, Nagaland. My father is a resident of Kohima. My father is in the army, so we lived in a lot of places. Sadly,
Hmm.
I have not had a experience to live on for a longer tenure in Kohima. But if you had to ask me what's my home, the first answer that comes to my mind is Kohima. That's the memories that I have. I don't have a lot of childhood memories coming from Kohima, but it
Mm-hmm.
does have a specific impact of saying where is your home. It's Kohima for me. Coming from the defense background, I've had the privilege to travel to different parts of the country. I
Hmm.
think so. Currently, there are only two states in India that I have not visited. Apart from that, considering my father was in the army and plus my work involved a lot of travel. So I have been to a lot of places. The best thing about traveling to a lot of places is that you get to meet
Yeah.
new people. You have a lot of insights to what different cultures carry. So
Hmm.
that's one thing that I think so has imbibed very well with respect to the personality that I've developed.
Hmm.
From a professional front, I did my engineering course that as a very routine societal thing to do. I did my engineering. Post that, I did my MBA. I did my MBA in HR, and post that, I had different stints. I
Hmm.
had a talent acquisition stint. I had an HRBP role. I had a central HR PMO kind of a role.
Hmm.
But currently, I moved out of HR and I'm into consulting, hardcore consulting right now.
Yeah.
So that's a brief about me there.
Wow, that was a beautiful introduction. So
Cool.
much to speak on the introduction that you gave yourself. Like I always tell people, travel. When you travel, you discover so much of yourself and around the world. So it's such a beautiful introduction that you gave. But coming back to our topic today, so what we'll be discussing is more on what should people be doing when they're looking for a job. Where do you want to begin, Kunal, on this?
So I think so. As a pre-discussion that we are doing, I think so. Resume building is something very important.
Yeah.
But prior to resume building, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be something that you write on the resume before you actually going into a resume. So I'll not get into what should you write, what should
Mm-hmm.
you not write. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that you build your way through. But apart from just having your name there, photograph there, firstly, don't have ever have photographs on your CV. If you do that, that's not a very that's not a practice that anyone should follow. That just takes up a one pager space that you have.
Hmm.
So drop your addresses, doesn't really matter. But that's hygiene factor of it. You can read a lot of stuff there on online. I'll not spend a lot of time there.
Hmm.
But while you are in college and before that while you're in school, you need to start building pointers around what do you want my resume to be getting into.
Hmm.
You can't just be writing that this is my education background. I'm speaking very clearly for freshers who's about to get into the
Yeah.
job market.
Hmm.
As you gain experience, you have a lot of things to write about.
Hmm.
But prior to getting into it, try to build your resume in a such a way that it stands out. It's everything about building a resume needs to stand out. So it's why do you need resumes? It's about the kind of crowds that, let's suppose that there is one job opening and there are thousands of applicants that
Yeah.
come in, right? So you need to differentiate yourself, and in order to differentiate yourself, you need to create some niches around it.
Hmm.
It could be anything. It could be you joining sports committee. It could be you doing event management and doing whatnot. But just maybe 4 years out of engineering college or 3 years out of graduation college, just don't come out having fun stuff like that. That's very
Hmm.
important. But on the way of having fun, you need to, even if you don't have a pull towards it, push yourself towards getting into such groups, such clubs. could be anything from debate club to anything, but something that of course you have interest towards. And if you are someone who has absolutely no interest, no hobbies, then my suggestion is force yourself into something that relatively interests you, but start working towards it. Don't get into I will create a fancy CV. It could look like $1 million. If there is no content, it won't fly. And for some freshers who would really want that content to fly, I think so it makes more sense that you start working on the content part of it as a prerequisite. Don't come to it as an afterthought that
Yeah.
now I've done 4 years of engineering or 3 years of graduation. I need to build my resume and I will start writing, excuse my language, but I'll start writing a lot of BS that won't work. You have to, so someone is going to pick out what you learned there. And if you don't have, so resume is one part of it, right? You have to give an interview as well. And for freshers, these are most probably points that they'll come out
Yeah.
picking out questions. And of course, apart from the knowledge that you have from your graduation, that's a given that you would have to brush up before an interview. But given whatever you write, you need to be able to speak. And from all the interview experiences that I have, until and unless you're sure about what you're speaking, it will never fly. Someone will, it'll be an expression change. It'll be something that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think so. That fact itself tells you that start working towards from year one. Don't wait for after I'll graduate, I'll do this, I'll do that. Doesn't work. Maybe it could be as small as being part of an NGO, something, a cause that you believe in, but keep that handy while building your resume. With respect to building and resume per se, like I mentioned, you'll get to read a lot of stuff. I'm just going to define a couple of very broad line rules. Keep it limited to a one pager. Don't go into 2 pages. No one has that much of time. Don't write a very elaborate summary that Kunal is XYZ and the summary goes on for a paragraph long. No one has time for that. Create crisp pointers. Locate what kind of, let's suppose that you want to get into research, then mention what kind of research have you done. If you want to get into event management, PR, you need to build your resume in crisp pointers, indicating that this is where your interest lies and this is what you have done. Of course, some amount of flap is okay, but limit that flap to most probably a 10% out of that 100%. Everyone flaps. That's don't think that everyone whatever is written on a resume is pitch perfect. You can flap, but limit it to some pointers. And I just quickly would want to recommend a website. It's a paid website, but it's very nominal. It's called Zety, Zety.
Unsponsored.
So it's unsponsored. Okay, cool. So it's Zety. It's something that you should pick up. It will give you all the tools to build. It will have a prerequisite or a pre-made format that you can look at. When I say it's inexpensive, of course, inexpensive definition depends from person to person. For me, it's tad bit inexpensive, but you can always. It's not the only way, but it's definitely a very useful tool that you can use. You can maybe have a group login or something like that. But I think so. It's a tool which has pre-made resume content for different varied experience, from freshers to experienced hires to senior resources. So it's a tool that you should look at. So that's pretty much what I want to convey for resumes. Another very key aspect about building a resume is I'm not sure if there is a section that you want to get into, like Naukri or something like that. So Naukri is one of the most powerful tools that all recruiters use, right? Because it has a functionality, it has a UI, and it has search tools which will help a recruiter the recruiter will type in certain keywords that they require, that is defined in their job function. That keywords will start reflecting in Naukri, and that reflection only happens if you have all of that content mentioned in your resume. So be very specific with respect to what do you want to write and which kind of profiles that you want to highlight, get into. Let's suppose that you want to get into project management. Then you mention that I've had project management skills. The best way to do is search on Google keywords for project management, and you make sure that you have all of that in your resumes that are mentioned. I think so. Even before getting into a lot of resume building, just be very sure of where do you want to apply. Talk to a couple of people, maybe look at sub podcasts like me. I is going to come up with maybe, I don't know, she's going to come up with some other podcast around this as well. But be very sure with respect to what are the kind of keywords that you want to put in,
Hmm.
and that's how you pretty much build your resume.
Yeah.
That's my input of it.
Yeah, and also like you rightly said, sometimes educational degree is important, but what a recruiter or the person who is interviewing you or screening your CV also looks at soft skills. Now, these soft skills cannot be taught anywhere. You have to develop them. Would you want to speak on those?
Okay, so I will quickly give you a background. I consider myself to have decent spoken skills. Okay, but this is not something that I was born with.
Hmm.
I think so. In class eight, till class eight, I was very conscious with respect to how my English was.
Hmm.
The only way I built on it was watching a lot of movies. But more than that, the one thing that really helped me in improving my communication skills is that my self talk. Everyone does that, right?
Hmm.
So my self talk, I started doing that self talk in English, and that really helps because I think so. You talk to yourself the most over time. You realize
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
the self talk is something that you do a lot. So try
Yeah.
conversing that self talk from whatever language that you use, could be Hindi, Nagamese, Nepali, changes to English, and then you'll realize that because the kind of conversation, complex conversation that you have with yourself, right? So your mind starts to pick
Hmm.
up all of those during the conversations itself. Uh, Read a lot. Okay, that's something that I realized way too late in life. It could be anything. Okay, don't get into specific. I would need to read a lot of novels or something like that. Like a very general practice for whoever is preparing for CAT is they have to read something called the Hindu.
Hmm.
I won't comment on with respect to is it left oriented, right oriented, but the kind of English that they use is spectacular. You literally, there were some days that I had to sit down with a dictionary to understand the kind of words that they had. But I think so. Reading is very important for
Hmm.
you to build vocabulary. If you say that suddenly I will plan this, that I will learn 5 new words in a day, doesn't work out. I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a practice that you won't be able to keep it up. So maybe try reading more.
Yeah.
Read more. Read something that interests you. For me, I'm a car enthusiast, so something like a car magazine makes
Hmm.
more sense to me. But forceful reading I did during my CAT preparation, during my there's a entire verbal section that comes
Hmm.
along,
Yeah.
reading comprehension.
Hmm.
For that, I read a lot of Hindu. So
Hmm.
Hindu as a newspaper is very expensive. Okay, if you have a different alternative to Hindu, I would recommend that.
Hmm.
But if you can go ahead and buy Hindu, I think so. It's a fantastic newspaper to build your communication skills on, and try conversing with people in English, because in a professional setting, wherever you are, English is the go-to language. You can't be conversing in your own regional languages or Hindi languages.
Hmm.
That would be all be offline. But on a professional setting, you need to speak in English.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, because this is a crowd that comes from Northeast. While of course there's a regional pick of language that
Yeah.
comes along, but try to get into how do I say it,
A neutral.
a neutral, try to do that. It's not very mandatory, I won't say. I don't mean to sound demeaning to anyone, but I think
Yeah.
so picking up a very neutral tone so that people can't pick up where you're coming from, kind of becomes essential, not essential, but is a good skill that you can pick
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially if you are into conversing with your customers, that's one skill that they look at. Now, apart from spoken skill, I wanted to speak more on soft skills like confidence and the way you speak to people in an interview. Those are not taught in school, right? And these are
Hmm.
things that you have to build up, and these are very important. Those skills you have to mention in your CV as well. And like you rightly said, whatever you write in your CV, those skills has to be something that you reflect on. So would you want to speak on those skills as well?
So I think so with respect to confidence, I think so the conversation would go way too vague. I
Yeah.
think so
Yeah.
confidence is something that's, how do I see it? I wouldn't say I was ever underconfident. Maybe I had
Hmm.
some body image issues or some issues, but really confidence is something that you build over time.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's something that happens naturally. And I'm someone, after this conversation, whenever I have a conversation with people, I generally tend to ask them, what do you think? I'm an introvert and extrovert.
Hmm.
Mostly people come out saying that I'm an extrovert. I'm a hardcore introvert. Okay, but that
Hmm.
doesn't reflect with respect to the conversations that I have.
Hmm.
That's something that you build over time. It's
Hmm.
something. It's conversation is just speaking genuinely one person to the other, doesn't need to have any undertone, overtone. And it's mostly learning how to build on small talks. Okay, over
Yeah.
time you realize small talks really have a lot of importance with respect to how's your day been going, and just a starter conversation that you have, then you pick up that. With respect to self confidence, I really don't have a solution per se, Neha, to be honest. I think
Hmm.
so that's something that you need to work on
Yeah.
yourself. And it could be XY reason that you're underconfident, right? It
Hmm.
could be because of the way you look, the way you think, that what is your intelligence
Yeah.
level. So the best way to deal it, at least what I do, and I do this very religiously, and I'm not just saying
Hmm.
that in front of this discussion that I'm having, and I don't intend to sound rude or boastful. In my head, I think so I am as good as it can get. For me, I am the best at what I do. I am,
Yeah.
no one is better than me, is the confidence that I go with. And most probably I am wrong, but personally I believe that there isn't anyone who could do a job better than I do. But that's a confidence level that you reach over time.
Yeah.
It takes time to reach that level of confidence, and you reach that level of confidence after having worked a lot on yourself, after
Hmm.
having realized what is most probably the areas that make you struggle, make you
Hmm.
feel underconfident, and try to most probably work on it. And to be honest, no one is way super confident. Even the
Yeah.
most super confidence would have certain misses, but it's about how well you hide it,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's how you run.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it, they say, no?
Take it to it.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's really important because now why I was asking you this is because confidence is something really personal, but when you are in an interview, you have to show that you are confident in yourself, until and unless you realize or you um feel like you are a fit for that position, it will be difficult for the other person to also come true. Now going over that line, what are the things, because you have taken a lot of interview and because of your job profile, what are the things that people look at in a candidate and things that the candidate should work on?
Okay, so the first point is have very strong, assertive eye contact. Okay,
Hmm.
have that eye contact that is assertive. Don't be into overly aggressive kind of eye contacts or
Yeah.
looking all over the places. Don't do that.
Hmm.
Have look at the other person. This is to be honest, it's mostly conversation for freshers
Hmm.
specifically, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until and unless you're coming out of IITs, IIMs, where the pay packages are absolutely huge, right? So that's a different discussion. I'm talking from general fresher perspective. They're only trying to understand what are your technical skills, and technical skills, if you have it, you have it. You don't have it, you don't have it. You
Hmm.
can't really fake it there. Okay,
Yeah.
it's going to be a general question on what you have studied. You don't have an answer to it, you can't fake it. You just don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah.
My suggestion, and over time the interviews that I've taken, don't waste my time would be the first thought that comes to my mind as a recruiter.
Hmm.
Don't give me a lot of BS that I don't want to hear.
Hmm.
Tell me yes or no. Tell me the kind of answers that I want to hear. When I say the kind of answers that I want to hear, let's suppose I ask you a question. Don't come back, of course, with a yes or no answer. But if your answer is no, be polite enough to just come back to me, say that, sir, at this point of, sir, madam, at this point of time, I don't have this answer. I'll have to come back to you. Don't give me all run around the bush kind of answers that this is what. See, that's why whenever you build that resume, you have to
Yeah.
be very confident with respect to what you have written.
Hmm.
And to be honest, you should actually rehearse all the pointers that are written there, because I as a recruiter could pick
Yeah.
any of those points, right? For me, it's just having that conversation. And how do I have that conversation? I have that conversation with what you have written in your resume.
Hmm.
So apart from having a very decent eye contact, come to an interview always dressed very well. Okay, it's
Hmm.
very important. Don't wear dark colored t-shirts don't do it. It's just the first appearance that you come, I need to be happy seeing you. Okay.
Hmm.
It's about the first impression that you come into the room that you come into. I should be like, okay, someone has just arrived and seems to have a decent demeanor. Don't come into wearing a lot of fancy clothes. Don't come into, I don't want to see at you and you look like Ambani's son. Doesn't really work for me. So come that you really require this
Hmm.
job. Don't come with arrogance. Come with poise. Come with give decent amount of respect to the recruiter as well. Don't
Hmm.
come into a room coming with the thought that I'm so confident that I'm better than you. It's really not going to help. I don't really, in India, I have a plethora of applicants. It really doesn't matter to me if I lose you, to be honest.
Hmm.
So come with poise, come with a decent amount of respect that you have to the other person. Dress very well, that's very important. And please come with a decent, don't carry your resumes in your hand, okay, with the staples and all. Come with a file,
Hmm.
open that file and then present your resume. Just don't come empty handed or something until unless it's specified that you don't get to carry anything else in the interview room. At least carry those, what are those called, right? Those where you can insert their resumes, whatever is that called. You have a plugger,
The folder, yeah.
a folder, yeah, folder. So at least carry that and then give your resume. Don't come in shabbily with a page and you give it the page to the other person. But more than anything else, what I would love as a recruiter is you not wasting my time.
Hmm.
And when I say you not wasting my time, you stick to what I've been asked. And if this is a question of where I want to search for communication skills, I'll build my questions in such a way that I get to understand what your communication skills are.
Hmm.
But to per se limit it to a degree of, because as an interviewer I'm not allowed to stop you. I mean, as a good practice, I will not stop you while you're giving me an answer. It's just not a good practice. But you have to understand that just because I'm giving you time to go on, you run for an half an hour doesn't work.
Yeah, so true. And also, would you want to touch on body language? Because there are things that you notice, right, when people are speaking.
For me, I think so. If you have your the way, um, the poise, like I mentioned, you should come into a room and I should not feel uneasy looking at you. When I say uneasy, you shouldn't be overly confident that you are just, I don't know, coming into a room like it's a park or something. Very underconfident, shaking per se. You should have a lot of poise. When I say a poise, you should be assertive in what you're doing. You're here for an interview. You're not doing me a favor, and of course, I'm not doing you a favor of sitting down. So it's about having a conversation, going there, sitting up straight. It is always nice if you get into a room smiling
Hmm.
and leaving the room smiling. It's a good thing to have. Don't come into a room without smiling, of course. And then it's not about then fake smiling throughout your interview. Of course,
Yeah,
they're going to be
to be
serious
awkward.
conversations,
Yeah.
and that will be serious conversations as well. But come into a room smiling and try to, even if the heart rate is going way beyond what it should, you need to have a control in this sense. Ask for a glass of water if you need it.
Yeah.
Don't overspeed the way you want to have your conversation. But most important for me, and again, different people have a different opinion about, is eye contact.
Hmm.
If I see a wavering eye contact, I know that this person has just paved off their path and now they've started to build stories around whatever they have not done. So for me, eye contact is very important.
Hmm. Hmm. So true. Now we have touched like what are the points that you should be mentioning in CV, and one important thing that you spoke about is keywords. It's really
Mhm.
important because recruiters, uh, when they are searching for people, they use those keywords. So like you rightly said, whatever industry or whatever profession it is, they can always Google and you have the answer. And when building their CV, they can add those keywords so that
Yes.
they end up being appearing in the search results. Now,
Mhm.
other than that, how can people, how can fresher look up for jobs, or how they can reach out to a recruiter, or how they can look out for openings?
So I think so. I joined LinkedIn very late, okay, but
Hmm.
I think so. LinkedIn as a tool is very important.
Yeah.
You start building LinkedIn once you start getting into the mode of most probably realizing that job is something that you need. You don't realize that in the first year itself, I think so. The first year is pretty chill, and then you suddenly see your seniors passing out with job offers. Then you realize that, yeah, I need to work towards it. So I think so. LinkedIn is something as it has come up as a very powerful tool with respect to where do you want to apply. So be very specific with respect to LinkedIn as well. Maybe I don't know if anyone has time, go through my LinkedIn profile, look at what I have, just build it, if not in similar lines, but it has to have a very professional feel to it. It can't be having you taking selfies and putting that as your photograph. Doesn't work. Doesn't work that way. So have a very professional way. It's supposed to be a professional social media site. Use it that way. Again, a lot of try to create content, but that's really not important if you're
Hmm.
looking at for a very job specific. It doesn't really matter
Hmm.
how many networking you have done and how much of that is. The jobs is similar. The job view that I'll get for my profile is going to be similar for the job view that you get, irrespective of whatever your LinkedIn profile is. And there are going to be very, I think so. I only had once that someone from Google had reached out to me with respect to a job opportunity for a role per se. Otherwise, it's rare that people would reach out to you. But create a LinkedIn profile specifically. Again, use the same keywords that you would have picked up. Try to put it into the information section that you have.
Yeah.
Uh, don't have a relatively large introduction line. Don't take it up from me. I have a lot of experience, so I need to mention a lot of companies that I've worked for. So, but for as a fresher, keep it simple, keep it professional, and there's a good job research, job search engine there as well. Look at it. But apart from that, I think so the go-to website for anyone searching for a job has to be Naukri. You need to put up a Naukri profile as soon as you want to get into the job market. But again, for freshers, the game is a tad bit different. Okay, for
Yeah.
freshers, you need to really follow LinkedIn or career websites, or you need to find
Yeah.
people who are working in that companies, are into talent acquisition vertical. Where are the openings coming out at? Okay, so try to go into a lot of company websites, go to their career sections, try to find out what kind of openings that they have. Because Naukri, to be honest, would again Naukri, LinkedIn, all would be more into experience hires. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that they would not hire from these websites for freshers as well, but primarily it's a tool used for experience hires. For the best way to go forward and do it is
Hmm.
look at career websites, look at what are they applying for, what are they having. Like there's Accenture's job portal, right? So
Yeah.
once you apply to Accenture's job portal, they will keep sending you job applications or job openings that make sense to your profile.
Hmm.
It's something that they keep on sending you, and all good companies trying to reach out to candidates do that. So whenever you create that profile, again, be very specific to what you write there, and then most probably work towards. And uh, I think so. A lot of people don't give a lot of importance to going into career website because it's a lot of work. But
Hmm.
I think so the amount of opportunities that you can find through career website, of course, everyone would want to be in that WhatsApp group where you get a message that here's a job opening. Of course, I'm sure, so if someone would already be in there, of course, it's a click away and stuff like that. But go through companies career website where you would want to apply. There will be a section,
Yeah.
a very generic email ID of HR at the rate whatever. But
Hmm.
if you want to go in depth, you can try reaching out to talent acquisition specialists. So again, there will be a difference. Okay, I want to clarify. Whenever you are reaching out to someone in the recruitment, look at talent acquisition as a tagline, or look at recruitment. Don't
Hmm.
go back or go after HR professionals. Okay, so there are two different
Yeah.
verticals. Uh, HRBPs are different, recruiters are different. HRBPs would not have a view of recruitment. Recruiters would have a view of recruitment. So just quickly, both their profiles can reach out. So that there are going to be a lot of hits and misses. Not everyone is going to be
Yeah.
very responsive. To be honest, I'm also sometimes non-responsive to such messages because I don't have a view of most probably what's happening. So it's a hit and trial. I think so. If you really wanted to get into the job market and you've really been trying, I think so you can. There's no harm in trying this methodology as well.
Yeah.
But I think so as a fresher, I think so career sections and whatever pages that there are, right? There are a lot of pages with respect to fresher jobs and stuff like that. You need to be
Mm,
religiously. I don't remember. I never had to do it because I was placed through campus. Okay, but
mm,
I've seen websites which give out fresher jobs and stuff like that. I don't know if they're on Facebook or they're on LinkedIn, but I think so. You should go and look at it. I don't have a personal experience of going through those, so
mm,
I don't really have something to commend there. But be active. I think so. There's a plethora of opportunities, and I think so the best I think so if I was I think so I started my career 4 years back, but if someone had to ask me where would you start your career, I think so startup is something that I would really pick up
yeah,
on. And startups is something that you really don't need to be that much formal. You need to reach out to the right people, and most probably build on it. See, the easiest way is to get through references. Okay, but just giving you my personal example, none of my family members were ever in the corporate. Okay, everyone was a government employee. My father was in
yeah,
the army. Every around my family was a government employee. Um, so the corporate world is a different ball game altogether.
mm,
References work. So if you have someone in contact, don't go around begging. But if you have
yeah,
someone genuinely that you know, then you can of course reach out to them and tell them that this is a resume that I want to be processed. And to be honest, referrals are have the best strike
yeah,
rate with respect to converting
mm,
job opportunities. So if you have someone known, reach out to them. They will most probably forward the resume to the right spot. So
mm,
finding the right spot is very important because HR department, recruitment department have a lot of job opportunities. But if you can pick out who they are, but don't be discouraged if we don't have
yeah,
references. That's absolutely fine. I think so. Look at career websites, look at those job portals throwing out fresher requirements as they are, and I think so
mm.
you should be good to go.
Yeah. So what I normally like to do is I use LinkedIn to look
Mhm,
for jobs. So what I do is for freshers you'll have to start from your first year. You have to understand which industry you're interested in, and accordingly make a list of companies that you want to get into. Maybe make a list of 10 to 50 companies,
mhm,
and then go to their website in LinkedIn, and then see what are the jobs that is interesting, or that you find interesting to your interests or to whatever studies you are doing. And then you can always make a notification alert, right, wherein if there is a new opening you will get a notification alert.
mhm,
Now if there is a job vacancy that I see, what I usually do is I apply on the website that they have given, and then I also reach out to an employee that is working in that organization through LinkedIn
mhm,
only.
mhm,
Now like you said, the strike ratio is less, but you know what you can do is, if you reach out and you don't say like I want a job and something like that, but just say that I'm looking for an opportunity, you know, I saw an opening here. And referrals do work, and people are keen to referring people. Is why, because sometimes they get paid for the references also, if the employee if the candidate is good. So what I
right.
like to do is I like to reach out to employees of that organization, maybe 10 to 15 of them, who I think can help me. And then if they don't respond back also, that's okay, right? But then you can at least try that way also. I mean, that also helps quite a bit.
So I think so that's a very good way to reach out. But
Yeah,
the only difference is here you're an experienced hire. Now you
yeah,
have experience. For someone who's a fresher, I mean, where would I recommend your name for? That
hmm,
I don't know which role profile that I should
hmm,
recommend or I should refer you.
hmm,
And again, coming to a point, okay, and it's something that I think so I realized very late.
hmm,
And you specifically, even if you're coming out of an MBA college, graduate college, don't be too dwelt on what do you want to do in your career. I think
yeah,
so it's so don't make up your mind so quickly. So
hmm,
in the 4 years that I have worked, I have had 6 role changes,
hmm,
and those are voluntary role changes because
hmm,
I still believe I don't know what I really want to do. So
hmm,
I keep looking out for what really excites me, and it has brought to me from HR to consulting. So I
hmm,
think so it's something until unless you are bound to start a family
yeah,
or you intend to start a family soon. So give yourself time,
yeah,
look at what you really like. Maybe you start your day saying that I want to get into marketing, and then suddenly you realize that marketing is 10% marketing and 90% sales, and maybe
hmm,
sales is not something that you're built for. So give yourself time with respect to what do you want to do.
yeah,
Take your times, but the first job becomes very important. Get
hmm,
that first job. Getting that first job is the tough task, and after that, if you get into a good company, there's going to be a decent amount of chance that after 2 years you'll get the role change opportunities any which way. After 2 years It doesn't really matter what kind of educational background that you're
Yeah.
coming from. Of course, it does matter, but it's more about how well you can sell yourself
Mm,
in an
mm, mm.
interview. So don't fret about these are my targeted companies. Of
Yeah.
course, it's a good to have thing,
Mm,
but don't be dwelt into. I think so. 4 years, if I had to go back 4 years, I think so. I would have loved to join a startup and try to
mm.
most probably explore roles within startup, because it's easier there.
Yeah.
You don't need to limit yourself to one job function. If you're good enough, that you can do a job function rotation as well. Of course, it comes with a sense of not having the best job security. But what are you? You're just 20s. You're in your 20s. You're supposed
Yeah.
to live with non-job securities as well.
Yeah, so true. Like in my previous podcast, that's what we discussed. So startups are a best way to learn so and develop so many skills, because out there you're doing and performing every skill, because it's just starting up and you're learning every day and all that. Having said that, like you rightly said, one of the plus point of corporate world is that you can always switch.
Mhm.
If you do not, if you feel like, for example, I'm in sales and marketing, and tomorrow if I feel like, no, this is not something that I really want, this is not thrilling anymore, I can go back and say no. I want to, see something in HR maybe. But then I should have those transferable skills. Now, would you want to speak on that too?
So yeah, so the last line that you mentioned, you need to have skills to do it. Okay, while
Yeah.
it's not as sugar coaty as
Yeah.
suddenly after 2 years you decide that I want to move out of marketing and I want to do finance. I mean,
Hmm.
you should have that skill set, and you should have built your certifications or anything that you want towards that particular line of interest as well. And of course, so giving you an example of the first company that I worked for, it was Capgemini. So I started in talent acquisition, didn't like talent acquisition, got into a PMO role, didn't like
Hmm.
PMO role.
Hmm.
Then I got into an HRBP role again. So it's something that over time, if you have the skill for it, see, for every company, retaining an employee is any which way going to be better and cost saving than
Hmm.
losing an employee and doing a backfill of that employee.
Hmm.
But again, the most important line is transferable
Yeah.
skills. You need to have skills with respect to what you convey, and specifically if you are in a non-tech role. Okay, non-tech role. If you're in tech role, then I mean, it's all about the technologies that you've
Hmm.
got your life sorted. Okay, so you're currently, I think so, one of the regrets that I have, I should have picked up something in technology and maybe I should have lived with it. But if you are in a support role,
Hmm.
if you are in a non-tech role, the most important aspect of anything becomes that how presentable you are.
Yeah.
It becomes very important in any role that you want to get into. It could be HR. I won't say finance. Finance again is very technical,
Yeah.
but anything else, any support roles that you want to get in, it needs to be. You need to come out as confident. You need to come out as someone who can handle things, and
Hmm.
you need to come out as being as assertive as possible. So again, all of that comes to that question of how confident are you, how do you build that confidence, and something that is not something that you can change in a fortnight. You most probably can read up for a technical interview for the last 24 years, mug up as much as you can, but you can't transform yourself from being an underconfident person to a confident person in a couple of days. So it's something that you should progress. And I think so the most important, I think so, is the first point that I brought in. Don't limit your college experience just
Hmm.
having fun. Try to get into more societies, try to get into something like what Neha is doing, right? This is something which is it's for her, for you, Neha, it's something that of course
Hmm.
is building confidence. You're being able to carry out this conversation that we are having. This is something that that's adding to the value that you have. It's
Hmm.
an experience that you're building. So try to pick up such things on your own. And I think so try doing more than just sleeping, eating, drinking. I think so that's don't ruin your, I won't say don't ruin your college life, but have more to life than just doing those three things. And I think so confidence is something that you'll build up.
Hmm.
And specifically for introverts, okay, and coming from an introvert, I know it sounds very plausible that it's rather easier said than done. I'm telling you from an introvert experience, you have to do it. there is no way around this. You need to speak to people. There is no escaping people in corporate life. You
Hmm.
can't just be shutting your mouth, sitting in a meeting and then going away. It even if you make it, you won't progress. So
Yeah.
conversations is something that you need to build on, and have genuine conversation. That also becomes very important.
Hmm.
Some days you want to speak, don't speak, but the days that you speak, try to have genuine conversations with people, and not just conversation for the sake of having conversation. And I think so putting yourself in something new, like what Neha is doing, I think so that builds confidence per se.
Mhm. Thank you so much for giving my example. I don't know how to take it.
Abs-
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we covered part of, how you should be building your CV, and also what are the things that recruiters look when they are interviewing you. And also you mentioned about, now coming back to, as a fresher, if you were to just give a personal guidance, or, as a fresher, if I'm a fresher and I'm just out of my college, how would you, direct them to looking for jobs, like you mentioned LinkedIn, Naukri, and all that, but career pages. But other than that, is there anything that you would want to mention?
Okay, the simplest answer for me is make it into a very good college. Okay,
Hmm.
so you don't really have to worry about placements. But I think so if that's not the case, if you are getting into a reasonably okay college, I think so apart from what I already mentioned with respect to what you need to build outside of your resume, I think so be sure of what you're applying for and start doing there are a lot of free courses. Okay, use Coursera. I think
Yeah.
so I used Coursera a lot.
Yeah.
Create a student profile. You mentioned that I don't
Financial
intend
aid.
I didn't intend to say that, but
Yeah.
of course there are mitigation ways of working around that. So
Hmm.
useful opportunities
Yeah.
to use that, build build. So it's just not about securing a job, right? And when you get into a job, you could flap yourself inside the job, and then nothing doesn't really help.
Hmm.
And then there are two things to it. Okay, for technology folks, you just need to know technology. Are you really can't skip on knowing
Hmm.
technology and find it out of way. So I don't have much to say there because I've never been a tech guy. Okay, how do
Hmm.
you prepare for a technical interviews is out of my purview. I don't have a purview of that. But for someone else, I think so. Whoever is in a non-tech role, anything apart from technology, when I say technology, core IT, CSC, and stuff like that, if you're in a non-tech role, Excel is a skill that you need to really have.
Yeah.
There is no escaping Excel,
Hmm.
and you need to have hands-on experience in Excel. Excel is a tool that's just bread and butter for a lot of roles. Okay, so
Yeah.
even if you are building a skill, one skill that is non-tech that you need to build is Excel, and um, uh, that's a skill that not everyone would have. Okay, and
Hmm.
over time I've realized that even in a role that requires Excel as much as my role does, there are a lot of people, just because they've been scared of Excel throughout their life, they're still running scared of Excel. And
Hmm.
it's not rocket science, believe me when I say it. It's just something that you put your hands down, start working. And I think so that's one thing that you need to work on.
Hmm. Yeah.
But other than that, I think so whichever interview that you go, whichever place that you go, if you lack communication skills, it's not really going to help you.
Hmm.
And trust me on that. I mean, you could have very good ideas, you could have a lot of experience that you want to take out on, but you don't have communication skills per se. So I remember after clearing my cat, okay, so there's a lot of MBA colleges take a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of mock interviews with myself.
Hmm.
There were specific questions that I knew that they're going to ask it. I had written down all my thoughts in it, and wherever possible, I would repeat those points wherever I thought it was applicable. Because those are
Hmm.
core points that define me or define my candidature, right? So that's what I did. So I prepared myself. I looked at the mirror, did my
Yeah.
round of interviews. I asked my sister to come sit down, take my interviews and stuff like that, and that really helps. It's as good as you giving a lot of mock tests before the actual
Yeah.
exam, right? It's on a similar line that you need to get into the room, and the other person needs to believe that
Hmm.
you're sorted enough, good enough to get that specific role. And that sortedness, or that value chain only comes if I get to hear from you.
Yeah.
and don't give yes or no answers. Please don't avoid that. So have a conversation, but make sure that you're able to at least portray whatever ideas that you have. I'm sorry, I lost the track of the question. Did I answer your question,
Yeah,
Neha?
yeah, you did very
Or
much. So
works.
yeah, like what you said, what I used to do, like even if right now, if I have to go for an interview or if I have a public speaking session, what I usually do is I let my cousins sit down, and they'll be my audience, and I'll tell them give me genuine feedback, or
Hmm.
or if you are not comfortable speaking in front of people, what you can do is simply record,
Hmm.
record with your phone or whatever devices that you have handy, and then listen to it. Then you'll be able to know, oh, these are the things that I need to change. You can hear yourself. Even for the podcast, like I didn't knew how to start, right? So what I did was, for my first sessions, I'll bring on my cousins and all, and I'll be like asking them question, and we'll start having a conversation. That's okay, everybody does it. You'll have to work on those skills. It will not come to you. Like I said, nobody in school or colleges will teach you this. You will have to work on them. And how do you do that? By communicating with people, maybe learn from your friends. They might have skills that can help you. So apart from all the fun and, like you mentioned,
Right.
sleep, eat, and repeat, other than that, there are so many other things that you can work on. um um is there anything
So,
else that
so,
we're
so
missing?
I
Yeah.
just quickly, while you were saying that, there are two things that I picked from you. Firstly, be very open to constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can't take feedback in always in the negative way. Of course, you
Hmm.
you know when the feedback is negative and it's just meant to demotivate you, you can ignore them.
Hmm.
But when you hear constructive feedback and when you ask for feedback, please be ready for constructive
Yeah.
feedback. Then otherwise, you will just hear yes, yes, it's all good, and it won't really help you. So be
Hmm.
ready for constructive feedback. And when you get constructive feedback, or like you mentioned, you look at your videos, then work on them. Don't
Yeah.
go on in the same cycle of routine of making that video just because you heard a podcast of Mia where it says that record that video and you
Hmm.
keep on recording your
Yeah.
video.
And you don't
You need to
listen.
you need to make changes to
Yeah.
it. So it just can't be a infinite loop of you making the same mistakes. Sit
Hmm.
down, understand what is working, what is not working, and that's the way that you go forward with.
Yeah. And it's also important that you are able to understand what is constructive feedback and what is not. And that can only happen when you understand yourself and you know what you want and you know what you're good at. So it's very
Absolutely.
important, yeah, because people will have something to say or another, right? But it's
Right.
important that you know yourself. Like, that's when you can portray confidence.
Right.
When you know that you have knowledge or you have skills for that specific role. Is there anything that we're missing?
I'm not sure if this is the end of the conversation that I have, but I did have something very particular that I wanted to convey. I
Yeah,
know it's
please,
it's
please, yeah.
it's outside of the purview. So given that this is specifically for students in Northeast,
Hmm.
I just have one recommendation to make. Okay, and I genuinely feel that this recommendation is very important.
Yeah.
Firstly, try to explore things out of Northeast. I mean,
Hmm.
it's very
Important.
important.
Hmm.
Don't be scared to come to different places, new places. Maybe if Delhi is scary, go to Bangalore. If Bangalore is scary, go to Mumbai.
Hmm.
But try to come out of Northeast. I don't intend to say that you leave Northeast per se,
Yeah.
but there is a world out of Northeast. While it may look very scary to you,
Hmm.
while it may look something that's out of your comfort zone,
Hmm.
and I don't intend to say that you always have the option to go back. There's no harm in that,
Yeah.
but you gain experience and go back and do stuff that's pretty much rightful. Like again, giving your example per se, I think so. This is something that you picked up not from Northeast itself, right? It's
Yeah.
something that you looked outside. That what are people doing?
Hmm.
What are they doing, and then you are implementing it back home, which makes sense. But another thing, while I've mentioned that go and explore Northeast, and I don't intend to be derogatory. I
Hmm.
don't intend to, how do I generalize people?
Hmm.
But then don't take Northeast and create Northeast in Delhi or
Yeah, it's
Bangalore.
very important. Yeah.
It, you just have friends from Northeast, then you are doing no learning. Okay, it's
Hmm.
just that you have shifted locations.
Yeah.
While I understand it's scary, people think that um, you know North Indians, South Indians are very racist. I mean, that's
Hmm.
just the, I mean, I don't mean to say you live with it, but that shouldn't really scare you. And understanding what different people have to offer. Not everyone is going to be bad, right? There are
Yeah.
going to be good people out there, but most of the scenarios that I actually visualize or I look at is the groups that they form. I mean, I am from Nagaland, I'm going to sit down with Nagini students. I am from this place, I'm
Mm.
going to most probably hang out with these number of this limit. Don't do that. There's no learning in that. You just change locations. You just brought a piece of Nagaland here, and you're not going to take anything back from here to the place that you go. You need
Yeah.
to interact with people. You need to understand specifically who is trying to get into the corporate world. I'm not sure what kind of companies are there in Nagaland, but
Mm.
if you want to really make it in the professional world, you have to understand that there's a world outside of the place that you live in,
Mm.
and it's very important that you start understanding there is more to people than the location that they come from, the food that they have, the language that they speak. And
Yeah.
until and unless you really start interacting with people, you will not have a lot of learning. And then you will suddenly realize that I that's the reason I like back home. But I think so if you go to a new place, it becomes very important that you explore that place, explore that people, and take a lot of insights and knowledge while going back home. So that's the last piece that I actually wanted to convey, Neha. And
Yeah.
over to you. If there is anything else, let me know.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I'm
actually,
so
yeah. From the conversation, I picked up two things. The first one is, like you said, get into a good colleges, or get
Mhm,
into a good college. Now in Nagaland, what happens is there are many good colleges, right? But
mhm,
I really want to bring this out, and if people who are in that policy making, if they are listening, people do not really focus on giving job opportunities after they graduate, which is really important. Education is
mhm,
one thing, but giving them the opportunity to use that education to earn a living is another, and that's one
mhm,
integral part that I see in all of the other parts, but in Nagaland it's missing. So
mhm,
I want to request colleges, it's not only about giving a certification of degree, but you should also give them opportunity to grow outside of the college. It's very important. And the second thing that you say, sometimes when we are from northeast states, we're scared. But we also had this conversation in my previous podcast with Pichamo, wherein we see that racism happens everywhere. It happens here also, it will happen there also. But sometimes some people are just ignorant. Some people do not know. Like, I also don't know many states in India. Similarly, people out here will not know. Sometimes they just ask, because we have different features, they might just ask, are you from this country? Sometimes they are ignorant, they are not trying to be racist.
mhm,
So you have to educate people also about Nagaland, maybe. And then, like you rightly said, we it's good to have people with whom we can share the same language when we are back home, but it's also important to go out and mingle with other people. That's how you educate them, that's how you learn from them, that's how you understand people's culture, that's how you explain your culture to people. And when you do that, you also learn so many things, apart from your job, apart from your day-to-day life, that you can always come back and use as a positive aspect to your give back to your community. So which is really important. And one thing that I wanted to ask you before we wrap
sure,
it up.
sure.
um so for example, you are a recruiter, right? So just a generic perception, what are the things that people can do to make an impression, because there would be around 100 to 50 candidates that will be coming for the same position, right? How to stand out in an interview?
Okay, so firstly, I just want to make this very clear. HR interviews aren't the make or break interviews. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to be very specific to it. I don't want to say that we are the
Yeah.
make or break. We would get a technical sheet which would be run by the business. Okay,
Yeah.
they would tell me that either this is a right out candidate that who has been selected.
Hmm.
For me, then I am just doing a formality. I am
Hmm.
just going to do a very basic check with you with respect to an HR, and then it becomes very important that you know your interview has gone well, that you don't
Hmm.
mess up this interview that we have, because this doesn't really have a lot of value. I'm just going to do hygiene check. I'm going to just check if I have some eligibility criteria. Are you meeting it or not? And again, another very important point: do not ever, with respect to the percentages that you have, with respect to the degrees that you have, anything that you have, do not write it, do not incorrectly write it.
Hmm.
There are going to be good companies who are going to go back, check that, and
Yeah.
then you will end up getting into the no hire list, which won't really work.
Hmm.
But coming back to your questions, HR are generally not the make or break interviews
Mm,
until and unless I have been given a feedback from the technical interviewer
mm,
that please check so and so things for the candidate. Could be communication skills, could be
mm,
attitude, and then I will start dwelling on it. And if that's a question mark, so I will have specific ways to look at it. Communication skills, I will start talking to you and about random things, tell you to
mm,
explain what were your college like and stuff like that. And with respect to attitude again, um, whichever interview you go, whoever has told you that be overly confident, go there like a tiger or a lion really doesn't help.
mm,
If I'm looking forward to a conversation, I don't look forward to a conversation with a lion or something like that. I look forward to a conversation with a human being,
yeah.
and I want that poisoness. And most importantly, you give me respect. And of course, it doesn't
Mm,
mean that me as a recruiter gets to disrespect you. If that's something that you see, then you have a understanding of what the culture of that company is
yeah.
going to be, and then you take your call accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, so true. And I think genuine, when you are genuine, people do appreciate that as well, you know, when you are genuine and you as a person you are genuine. Then because like I said, when you have technical skills, so
Yeah.
this are important, but then like I said, there are certain skills when you are a fresher specifically, there these are the things that they're looking at, you know, if this person can be an asset to my company or not. So these are the skills that they look at, like you rightly said.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah. Is there anything that you want to add?
Not really, I think so. Again, thank you so much, Nia, for giving me this
Thank you so
opportunity.
much.
Let me know
I
once this is up. I would love to see this, and if
yes.
there is anything more that you would want me to contribute, and I think so it's an excellent
Mm-hmm.
per se an ideation that you've come up with. I hope whatever conversation that we have had helps someone.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
that's
the
thank you so much.
intention. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Bye.
Absolutely. Lovely. Bye bye.